No, 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 I don't know. So we should get started for our side event. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all the participants, both here in the room and also those connected virtually. I'm very pleased to welcome you to this CFS side event organized by MIKTA, and that stands for Mexico, Indonesia, the Republic of Korea, Turkey, and Australia, and the 2023 presidency of Indonesia, and also together with the Global Partnership for Sustainable Development Data. So we are happy to have you join this side event. We are looking forward, I hope, for a very rich discussion and an interaction with the audience. My name is Boubacar bin Belhassan. I am the director of the FAO Markets and Trade Division. So I have the honor to be moderating the event today and to welcome you again. We have a very important topic before us, as you may have, of course, seen in the title. It's data-driven policy for better food security and nutrition, and drawing on the experience in digital transformations. Looking at the title, there are important keywords that emerge, and this we'll be talking about data, we'll be talking about policy, and then we'll be talking about digital transformations, and this is in the interface with food security and nutrition. So these are very, very important topics. We are actually, the aim is interested on how data, policies, and digitalization or the digital transformations can all be used together in order to improve or to achieve more positive food security and nutritional outcomes. Food security and nutrition are facing major challenges, as we have all heard, I think, in the deliberation this week in the CFS plenary. So there are major challenges. And it is important, it is very clear that in this context, we need to deploy all possible means, all possible tools, mechanisms in order to achieve our common goal of liberating or eliminating hunger and malnutrition in the world. Today, we will also learn about the power of digitalization in this context, and also the importance of coordination and inclusivity in this process. Without further ado, I now have the pleasure to give the floor to His Excellency, Mr. Tri Thariat, the Director General for Multilateral Cooperation of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Indonesia, to provide a brief introduction and welcoming remarks. Mr. Thariat regrets he cannot be with us today. However, we are pleased that he has sent a video message that will be playing. So I hope we can start playing the video message. Thank you.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, let me begin by thanking all MIKTA and FAO members for their support and participation at this event. The world is facing an unparalleled multi-dimensional crisis. In these difficult times, the world needs a trusted broker, a bridge builder. MIKTA can play a role. As a cross-regional consultative forum, MIKTA has collaborated at the multilateral level, offering pragmatic and creative solutions to global challenges. As chair of MIKTA this year, Indonesia actively promotes collective action for global food security and nutrition through strengthened multilateralism, inclusive recovery, and digital transformation. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Indonesia welcomes the work of the FAO Committee on World Food Security to produce policy recommendations on strengthening food security and nutrition, or FSN, data collection and analysis tools. This is in line with the commitment of MIKTA countries to uphold the use of data technology in the food system. Data-driven agriculture and food systems policies are crucial for informed decision-making and innovation. However, many people are still cut off from the benefits of the system and left behind. We therefore must go the extra miles and find common ground to first strengthen harmonization and coordination to improve data quality and utility. Second, advance multi-stakeholders collaboration to enhance data governance and improve human capital and infrastructure. And third, establish people-oriented data design and collection. And lastly, promote data and new technologies to serve the public good by allowing technology transfer and capacity building for developing countries. Excellencies, to conclude, I hope the discussion today will facilitate the exchange of experiences, best practices, and expertise among MIKTA members and all FAO members in the digital transformation of agriculture and food system. I thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think this is exactly, it sets the stage for the discussion today. What we retain is that data-driven policies and evidence are crucial for informed policies. I think we can all agree on that. We had also heard that the potential of technology, of innovation, of digitalization to help us in this regard. So these are the elements or the aspect that we'll be discussing today. So with that, thanks to Mr. Tariat again for his introduction and welcoming remarks and setting the context for our side event today. Now we move to the panel discussion. I'm very excited that in fact we have with us an amazing group of speakers that will share their perspectives, their experiences, their ideas on this topic. They come from different parts of the world, so we'll hear different perspectives. And after that, in terms of format, so we have 6 speakers aligned, and then we'll go in the order of MIKTA. And then after that, you will have also the Chief Executive Officer of the Global Partnership for Sustainable Development Data. And then we'll open the floor for a question and answer session with the audience. So I hope you follow very closely on this. And then we look forward to receiving your question, your comments after the speakers. So as I said, it is important for us to have an interactive discussion and to walk out with some ideas from this side event. With that, I'm happy now to invite the first speakers, and that's from Mexico, Mr. Jorge Gustavo Tenorio Sandoval, and he's the Director of Strategic Analysis in the Food and Fisheries Information Service at the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, again, of Mexico, who is joining us virtually. So, Mr. Tenorio, we give you the floor. I hope you are with us, you are connected, and then please, if you could take the floor. Thank you.
Good day for everyone. My name is Roque Nochebuena, and I am here on behalf of Gustavo Tenorio. So please tell me if I need to share my screen, or are you going to show my presentation? Gustavo told me that he sent the presentation, but if you prefer, I can share my screen. Do you have my presentation? Okay, I am sharing my screen. Let me tell you that SIAP, the information about agri-food and fisheries information in Mexico. Is the unique federal institution at national level which gives monthly information about production of 64 crops, 10 livestock products, and 3 fishery products to the National Institute of Statistics, which is part of inputs to get the annual and quarterly gross domestic product, besides indicators like global index of economic activity. SIAP also has the responsibility to send Mexico's agri-food and fisheries official information to FAO, World Bank, OECD, IMF, among other international institutions. We also integrate data to help federal programs which are designed to give support for small and medium producers besides poor population assistance. Hence, SIAP gives data to some programs like the warranty prices program for basic food products, for fair production program, fertilizers for welfare program, meat supply program, and rural supply program. What do we use? What do we use to do our job? We have field technicians who collect the data into the rural places, and they are carrying electronic devices and systems to collect the data. We also have satellite support to build maps related to agri-food production. So SIAP has the exclusive responsibility to administrate and operate the Mexico Reception Station. It's called ERMEX by its acronym in Spanish. And it is a ground station which has an antenna to get satellite images every day with 1.5 meters of spatial resolution all around the national territory. So it is possible to generate productive statistics of the country, to offer geospatial information for national security, not available in any other public institution, which is used by the Secretary of National Defense, the Secretary of the Navy, National Forest Commission, National Center of Prevention of Disaster, among others. So we also integrate and analyze satellite images to update agricultural frontier, crops monitoring, estimates of agricultural areas and yields, rapid response for climatological contingencies, focalization on resources assignation, among many other applications. So this is a short explanation about the data that we collect at SIAP. If you have extra comments, if you have extra questions, please feel free to send emails to give you all the information that you could need about Mexico data collection related to agriculture and livestock, and also fisheries. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Tenorio, for that and for the presentation on SIAP, on the different functions that it offers, which stands basically for the service of agri-food and fisheries information. So I hope probably after the presentation, if there are any questions, we'll direct it to you. We'll come back to you on that for more information. With that, I move now to the second speaker, Dr. Wahida Maghrabi, policy analyst in the Indonesian Center for Agriculture, Socioeconomics and Policy Studies at the Ministry of Agriculture of Indonesia, and who is with us here actually at the podium. So, Dr. Wahida, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Mr. Abu Bakar. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent and the Merciful, praise is done to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the organizer to having me in this panel So allow me to greet His Excellency Mr. Triharyat, DG Multilateral Cooperation, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ibu Leviana Hartati Ferdinandus, and colleagues, Deputy Chief of Mission, and also our colleagues from the Indonesian Embassy in Rome, the Indonesian delegates, invited speakers, participants, ladies and gentlemen. In this occasion, I really would like to share with you the data-driven policy for better food security and nutrition in Indonesia. As you may know, Indonesia has the fourth largest population with around 280 million inhabitants at the moment. And also, you know, we have committed in various multilateral platforms, including in the last year G20 Agriculture Working Group Chair Summary, Indonesia commits to have a consistent focus on enhancing food security and nutrition and sustainable agriculture and food system. This commitment is very critical since the world is currently, as mentioned during our event since Monday, facing unprecedented global food security and nutrition crisis caused by multifaceted challenges, including the recent action for rice-producing countries to ban the export, and most recent geopolitical conflict that may trigger an increase in fuel price, thus making logistic costs more expensive, at the end causing a greater food inflation. Under this huge uncertainty, Indonesia has strengthened the monitoring on food inflation. In our country, we have a high-level coordinating meeting on food availability that is held regularly and led by the coordinating Ministry for Economic Affairs. During the meeting, stakeholders discussed the update of the table that I presented on the slide, the food prognosis table, to determine whether each commodities that contributes to the inflation, deficit, or in the surplus level. As you see on the screen, our National Food Agency is responsible for producing the table, the different variables, as you see from the row, produced by their respective ministries and by passing a validation process in Central Bureau of Statistics, the institution who authorize all the data that published from Indonesian government. The data collection process also varies between variables. On production data, Indonesia has implemented spatial sampling for rice. Since 2018, this method was introduced by the FAO. A valid estimation on rice production will help the government to determine whether the balance, deficit, or surplus, and take a decision for import if the balance is deficit. For Indonesia, it is very important. Why? Because the rice is the largest contribution that triggered the food inflation. Very soon, CBS will announce the production of maize using the similar approach. At the same time, in 2023, this year, Ministry of Agriculture also introduced Crop 2.0, the measurement using database from satellite imagery and produce real data on irrigated paddy field, area, and production. Meanwhile, for the non-rice commodity, Indonesia still implements hierarchy data collection process by using iEstimate, although the report of data collection has been designed using system information management. Those table is confirmed by food price data. So we have 3 institutions who consolidate the data. CBS conducted monthly consumer price survey, while our central bank, for the aim to mitigate the food inflation, also conducting a daily food price monitoring, including the NFA. They also conducting daily food price monitoring. With regard to the consumption data, CBS is the institution who produced consumption data from our National Socioeconomic Survey, the old survey that has been implemented in Indonesia since 1963. It's a very old one, and then we keep doing the survey every 10 years. And also, NFA collection responsible for collect the data on stock. This illustration is really highlight what have been discussed during the last 2 days. The complexity in producing one table, using different methodology and approach, which determine the robustness level of the data. Next slide, please, Mas Purna. Thus, it is necessary for us to find a solution to harmonize the data collection system and reduce complexity. We identify some quick wins. So, in my center, we conducted a small research activity by Asia focusing on digital ag tech. We identify quick wins from several recommendations from our study. We could start by creating an enabling ecosystem for the improvement of data collection process, methodology, monitoring, evaluation, as well as inviting feedback for improvement. Another solution that could be implemented in addressing the above-mentioned gaps that have been highlighted before, you can just see the number 4, the policy and investment program. We highlighted 2 crucial, the enable indicators that help us to accelerate the title of this discussion today: effective governance and coordination, data-driven feedback loop. We also, identify how about the role of the governments. So we try to put a wave, first wave and the second wave. The first wave is, this is important to develop whole of government development plan. We focusing on digital AgTech, but in this case it's applied as well with the data. And also support creation of public and private, build comprehensive public accessible agri-data warehouse. The most important one, actually, you can see for the gray one, there is important to build technology infrastructure for e-government services and complete development of agri-tech stack, foster data-driven culture with the government. Next slide, Mas Purna. To end this presentation, fundamental data gaps still exist. There is a need to address this gap to effectively guide responsible action and inform policy making. In Indonesia, there is a strong government support to address the gap. There is a President Instruction number 95, 2018 to introduce electronic-based government system. Under this regulation, so you can see the chart over here, government set up what we call as One Data Indonesia. We start the initial step of this system by creating, as I mentioned earlier, the enabling ecosystem for data collection, data sharing, and data analysis. Thank you very much for your kind attention. So I'm looking forward to have a discussion with you all. Thanks.
Good. Thank you very much, Dr. Wahida, for the great presentation. I think you highlighted very important elements on the accuracy of data. And I think also an important aspect which emerges regarding the trade-off between accuracy and complexity, and how we can reduce this complexity while we also increase accuracy. So this a little bit, they seem like a quote-unquote conflicting objective. However, it is probably how technology and innovation and digitalization can be used in order to deal or to address this trade-off. Effective governance and coordination also came in the presentation. I hope in the discussion there will be more elaboration on that. Thank you again. Now I have the pleasure to move to the next and the third speaker, Mr. Jae-hoon Sang, who is the Director General of the Department of Digital Agriculture, the Rural Development Administration from the Republic of Korea, who is also joining us virtually. So, Mr. Sang, you have the floor. So please, if you could give us your intervention or presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your introducing me. Hello, everyone. I'm Sung Jae-hoon. I'm currently in charge of the Department of Digital Agriculture at the Rural Development Administration of the Republic of Korea. It's my great pleasure to give you a presentation on digital transformation of Republic of Korea agriculture. As of 2022, the number of farm population in Korea is about 2.2 million, accounting for about 4% of the total population. This number is rapidly decreasing every year. In addition, the average age of employee in Korea is about 43 years old. However, the average age of a farmer is over 68 years old. And the age of 65 or older account for about 47% of all farmers. I will now introduce two policies that the Republic of Korea has implemented to address agricultural issues such as a declining farming population and aging and food security. First, we have established the Smart Farm Innovation Valley to put it into practice. Some problem. Yeah. The Smart Farm Innovation Valley was established to increase the distribution of smart farm technologies. In 2015, the Korean government made a budget plan for the Smart Farm Innovation Valley. Since 2018, 40 hectare-sized smart farm innovation valleys have been established in 4 locations nationwide. The Smart Farm Innovation Valley has 3 main roles, including training young farmers, testing equipment such as sensors, and renting facilities to increase the distribution of smart farm technologies. In addition, each Smart Farm Innovation Valley has a data center system which brings together all the agricultural production data through each data center of Smart Farm Innovation Valley. This effect aims to achieve data-based agriculture through the Smart Farm Innovation Valley to address the era of fourth industrial revolution. Secondly, we have enacted 2 laws to promote the spread of smart agriculture. First, we have established a law to support the expansion of smart agriculture. This law was passed through the Nation Assembly in June of this year and is scheduled to come into effect next year. The key provisions of the law include the designation of specialized institutions for the training of smart farming experts to enhance the technical capabilities of farmers, industry professionals, and experts who will lead the expansion of smart agriculture. The second law established a system where the Rural Development Administration systematically provides its technological expert to ensure that farmers and industries can effectively utilize these. The purpose of this law is to create a basic for collecting and managing agricultural science and technology information, and to regulate matters related to the effective utilization of this information. RDA has built big data by automatically collecting agricultural data via satellite, robot, autonomous mobiles, and drones, and developed agricultural AI and big data models based on the collected data. This will support production, consumption, and policies in the agricultural sector, foster related industries, and sector agricultural sustainability, and lead future agriculture through AI-based service. Thus far, I have introduced the history and the current status of smart agriculture in my country. As you are well aware, the world is facing a crisis of climate changing and along with it, food security. These issues are not limited to 1 or 2 countries. They concern every nation on earth. Therefore, I believe that we must work together to address these problems. In this regard, my country is always with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sang, for that presentation and on the Smart Farm Innovation Valley, and also sharing with us Korea's efforts to promote smart agriculture and enhance agriculture science technology information, of course, within the context of using digital transformation and innovation and new technology. Thank you very much, and we hope the same. We come back to you after we complete with the presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now I move to the 4th speaker or panelist, and we have with us Mr. Yasin Haki Kocaman, Deputy Director General of Information Technologies, Minister of Agriculture and Forestry of Turkey, who's joining us also virtually. So, Mr. Yasin, you can take the floor, please.
Okay, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed members of MIKTA, I'd like to offer my thanks to the organizers and participants. So we are conducting yet another hybrid virtual MIKTA meet. And last year I started my speech with lamentations about post-COVID world and war to the north of the Turkey. But with regards to the turmoil around the region, we have delved deeper into the tragedy, and I want to start with a prayer to the innocent people who have died recently. May Allah have mercy on their soul. So, and because of this instability around the region, food security have grown in importance and became a primary topic of conversation, not just around the ministry, but around the country. And I think it's in the general discourse of everyone. And to that end, there is a growing awareness towards the importance of food security. And like for any kind of policy, awareness should come first. And to that end, we have been working with food and agriculture organizations of United Nations. And we have a project aimed at increasing public awareness of food loss and waste. So this is not directly related to data driven, but it is a foundational block of our policy. So our Save Your Food, Your Actions Matter project is intended to serve as a global example in addressing the issue. And like I said, this is a project that is being done with coordination with FAO. And we are taking simple, practical steps to say no to food waste and trying to make the general public well informed or literate when it comes to food. So all of these initiatives are accessible through our website, Gıdani Koru in Turkish, Save Your Food in English. And quite similarly, this year we have started another awareness program targeting water efficiency. Turkey has surrounded with waters, but it does not necessarily mean fresh water. So we are not we are going to have some kind of problem with our fresh water resources, and it is estimated to be in 2050. But we need to be prepared for that, and around 77, if I remember correctly, percent of our country's annual fresh water is used, consumed in agriculture. So every little bit of that water that we can, save would be important. So the principle is zero loss. Of course, it's not going to be achieved, but it's the principle of the this initiative. And I wanted to talk about these two before talking more about raising awareness part, both for food and for water. And if I were to move to the digital part of our initiative, last year I talked about our e-government and how it enables access to most of the general population. And this year also we have launched a mobile application with which every farmer, everyone that has some kind of data within the ministry can access and see their data. For example, even owners of pets can see the situation of their loved friend, multi-friend pet, and the farmers could see their information and what is in the ministry's hands, let's say, like in data store. So this is important with regards to open data initiatives. So related to that, we have some discussion as well. And so this enables farmers to stay in touch with ministry regardless of location. So this is the way that we can give the data back to the owners of the data. And lastly, I wanted to talk about an international project, an ongoing project. It's called Turkey Climate Smart Competitive Agriculture Growth Project. And it is being done with cooperation of World Bank Within the framework of this collaboration, we are strengthening Turkey's sustainable and competitive agricultural growth strategy. And one of the most important parts, and the one that is related to my department, is strengthening institutional capacity, especially for climate-smart agri-food policy. So the focus is the focus of this talk is about the data and how to use it for diagnostics, for surveillance, and ultimately using it to enhance productivity and have better resource efficiency because limited resources. But I want to touch about one side benefit of this project that is generally overlooked because we focus on the primary aspects. The framework the project is conducted, which guides the project in accordance with the environmental and social commitment plan. So this is also another part. Throughout my speech, I talked about the awareness, the human part of this technology. Coming from the technology side, this might be counter intuitive, but I think it's the important part to enable these kind of challenges, to solve these kind of challenges. And I can talk about some problems with regards to gathering data, but I can leave it in the next session to better utilize my time. And lastly, I can end with much discussed tech talk. Nearly every tech talk that you hear around these days talk about AI. So we also are using LLMs, language models like ChatGPT, to provide. It's in the early stages, but we are seeing some problems with that because we are using open data. We are populating the AI with documents of public documents and our reports, but there are lots of problems that needs to be solved with AI, with artificial intelligence. It's part of ethical parts, and cross-checking is not easy, and there are different types of problems. So we are highly skeptical about some parts, but I think it should be investigated with regards to agriculture as well. Ultimately, I think I hope to integrate it to our mobile application to have some kind of chatbot functionality, but it's early stages. And I'd like to thank you for listening, and I can answer some questions, especially about gathering of data in the next part. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much for sharing with us these projects that undertaken in Turkey, whether in the context of promoting climate-smart agriculture, but also you highlighted the importance of strengthening institutional capacity when it comes to the use of data. I think this is an important element. It may also come in the discussion because this is, I think, when we talk about digitalization, technology, innovation, I think the capacity development and the capacity building component becomes crucial. You also mentioned challenges, problems. I think we want to hear from you also during the question and answer, probably what you see as challenges, problems, but more on the solution, what also you see as solution to overcome those challenges. Thank you again for sharing with us your perspective on that, and I hope we'll come back to you during the next session during the question and answer. With that, we move now to our fifth speaker. We have Dr. Dave Henry, who is the Chief Research Scientist at the Commonwealth Scientific and Industrial Research Organization, CSIRO, and he's in the Agriculture and Food Business Unit. He's joining us from Australia virtually. So, Dr. Henry, welcome, and we are happy to see you joining from Australia. So the floor is yours, and please, if you can go proceed with your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are around the world. I want to thank the organisers for the opportunity to speak today. Hopefully you can hear me okay all the way from Australia. I would also like to acknowledge the contribution from the Australian Government's Department of Agriculture, Fisheries and Forestry for their assistance in facilitating my presentation today and my contribution to the panel. I'd like to just take the opportunity to speak to 5 points today, specifically around solutions and learnings. The first, you see the 5 listed there. Digitally enabled decision making, particularly on farm and through the supply chain, which is often neglected, I think. The need for integrated data systems, the role of automation, how we actually create system-wide change rather than component change. And as the previous speaker just spoke about, the role of artificial intelligence, but particularly how humans interact with AI, how humans interact with robots. So I'm just going to very briefly talk about each of these 5 areas. So the first is often what we hear things like ag tech. It is often the deployment of digital technology in the field. And you'll see 3 examples here, and I've chosen these 3 examples deliberately to demonstrate 3 different quite broad areas. The one on the left is a cotton sensor that is used to marry the benefits of water use efficiency, but also yield. And what's interesting about this one is it's not just about the sensor, it is about the cloud, and it is about being predictive to understand how decisions in the paddock can influence things like yield at the end of a growing season. The one in the middle is also an irrigation or soil moisture sensor, but what's really interesting about this one is it's the way that the community comes to learn together around the digital technology. And often it's about the knowledge system and how we can use digital and technology to create new knowledge on in a community rather than just with individuals. And the one on the right is an interesting one because it's not just about the sensor, it is about how we integrate data with models. And this actually looks at grassland productivity up to 90 days ahead. So for livestock farmers, they can use that information to think about how they move animals around the farm. How much feed are they likely to have? Have they got enough nutrition? Do they need to buy feed in? So it's much more getting at the forecasting rather than just the monitoring component. The second area I wanted to touch on faces the challenge about many of these solutions being fragmented. How do we actually create them but then support them on an ongoing basis? How do we incentivize, create incentives for farmers to contribute data and allow them to have the trust and get value out of doing that? So it's a role for what we call, and this is one example from Australia, which is a data platform that is looking at integrating lots of data, both public and private, and then putting applications on top of that platform. So companies, as well as individuals, can get benefit out of this shared infrastructure. The third one, automation. And often we hear everyone talking about, even today, drones and robots. And often these are used for very simple tasks in a farming environment in a very homogeneous or uniform environment. And I think the challenge that we have for automation is twofold. One is how can we get value out of them from very complex farming systems, but also to ensure that they're not driving the system. The robots should, or the automation should fit and enhance the system, not drive or control the system. And we can turn to some examples where robots have been deployed in farming systems and they've had a negative impact because it hasn't been a good fit with the actual farming business. The fourth one is about changing how data can have an impact on a component of a system, whether it's a farm system or a landscape or some other system, to thinking about future systems. How does someone invest in large changes to the system, particularly when the timeframes are long, takes a lot of investment and there's a lot of uncertainty and risk. So how can digital, such as digital twins, allow us to explore future states so that we can actually understand what the impact is likely to be before we invest a lot of money in making those changes? And finally, it was a wonderful segue from the previous speaker to talk about large language models, ChatGPT as examples. And I want to reframe that conversation to think about, how do humans interact with this technology? How can we more effectively have humans working with machines, with AI, so that the performance that we get out of that collaboration is much greater than having either one of those alone? And I think that's a very evolving field, looking at that collaborative intelligence between humans and AI or robotics. So finally, just to sum up those 5 areas, there's some really interesting learnings in both developed and developing systems. And I think one of the challenges for us all is how we scale and take those learnings and have broad impact, but very local specific application. Thank you very much. I look forward to the panel presentation.
Thank you very much for the very rich presentation. I think you highlighted very, very important elements. I'm sure, I hope we'll have some interesting questions also that will follow. I think it is important what you said, some points from what you said, the importance of creating knowledge for the community and not only at the individual level. The need for integration, this is also an important aspect, and how to avoid or how to overcome fragmentation and to have an integrated system. And I think it's a very powerful conclusion you have there on the collaborative intelligence and how humans can work together hand in hand with technology, with artificial intelligence for better outcomes. So thank you again. Very interesting presentation, and let's hope there will be some follow-up question during our next session. Thank you. Now, last but not least, I move to our 6th speaker, and I have the honor to introduce Ms. Claire Melamed, who's next to my left here. She's the Chief Executive Officer, and she leads the Global Partnership for Sustainable Development Data. And before that, she was the Managing Director of the Overseas Development Institute. So, Claire, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Mr. Moderator. Thank you to all of our co-hosts, to the other speakers. It's a real privilege for the Global Partnership to be here speaking on these issues. The Global Partnership, for those of you that have not met us before, is a network of over 700 partners working in more than 40 countries worldwide, all of whom share a belief that data and technology are key to achieving the Sustainable Development Goals and meeting the aspirations of the world's people, and that all of the new technologies, the new developments that we've heard about already on the panel need to be put to work where they are most needed to resolve some of the biggest challenges that we have in our world today. As we've heard already from the other speakers as we've heard about some of the very specific and interesting work that's going on to power progress across different countries, data globally is the fuel that powers progress across all of the Sustainable Development Goals. And it is, of course, no less important in the food security and nutrition sector, which is, as all of you know all too well, confronting the many challenges of climate, of the disruptions caused by conflicts, including the recent tragic events, and rapidly evolving technologies. Stronger data systems are essential to good policy and also foundational to the digital transformations that we hope will accelerate progress worldwide and open up new possibilities that at the moment we can only imagine. Digital transformation, along with the many transformations that will be brought through AI technologies, runs on data. All of the new possibilities in the world today that we're really only just beginning to grasp depend on strong foundational data systems. Data is the raw material that powers progress across all of these technologies. And these strong foundational data systems need to build on what we already have, the work by statisticians over many generations to develop the strong foundational data systems that now need to be combined with the data that can come from new technologies, from satellite imagery, from mobile phone technologies, and all of the many ways in which data is being produced just as we all go about our daily life. In a world where we are in many ways awash with data, there are still significant data and information gaps at the country level, and we mustn't forget in our enthusiasm for the new and for the possibilities, how many countries still lack access to the new technologies and to the foundational data systems that power them, especially, of course, as so often, in lower income countries. There are 92 countries in our world that have not conducted an agricultural census in the last 10 years, of which 52 have not done so in the last 20 years. And when we think about the changes in agricultural technology, the changes in climate, the changes in farming practices that have occurred over the last 20 years, we can see how, where there's been no census, where there's no up-to-date information, the challenge of making policy in a way which can accommodate the realities of modern farming will be extremely difficult. Of those 52, there are 10 countries that have no agricultural census on record at all. High quality, timely and relevant food security and nutrition data at the subnational and the local levels where so much decision making takes place are absolutely critical to inform good decisions and to compute indicators and monitor progress as we do in this building and in international organizations worldwide, and of course to underpin the digital solutions on which so many hopes rest. The data work stream at the Committee on Food Security meeting this week could not have come, therefore, at a more critical time, given the rapid pace of digitization and the data needs in the food security and nutrition sector. So we at the Global Partnership, our network, welcomes the CFS policy recommendations on data collection and analysis tools for food security and nutrition adopted this week. And I think the recommendations really hit the mark and point to the wider policy agenda in this sector by highlighting the need to increase investment in food security and nutrition data, the importance of strengthening data governance. This is partly about investment in systems and capacity, but it's partly also about investing in the regulatory and legal frameworks that underpin governance, and of course the urgency of addressing the inadequate institutional capacity for food security and nutrition data. I was really struck by hearing the contributions of colleagues earlier, how critical that institutional capacity and the ability of government institutions to bring data from different sectors together in a well-managed way is so critical to success and to many of the achievements that have been outlined already on the panel. And we've heard, I think, in many ways about the complexity, some of the complexities that are involved, and therefore the complexities of skills and infrastructure that are needed to modernize the systems for good decision-making and data collection on food and agriculture. And this, of course, I don't need to remind any of you, requires investment. On increasing investment, we know that investing in data systems yields significant returns. Research done by the Global Partnership shows that for every $1 invested in data systems across the board, there is an average return of $32 in economic benefits, in better lives, in improved environmental management. Investment in data is one of the best investments out there, and it pays back again and again across sectors and over time. And we're seeing already for food security and nutrition how the impact of data investment can be so significant. We've seen in the Global Partnership how in Uganda, crowdsourced data from citizens across the country helped to prevent $15 million in losses from banana wilt. How in Brazil, crowdsourced data combined with satellite imagery is supporting the fight against illegal logging, so critical not just for Brazil, but the health of the Amazon, of course, is something on which all of us depend. And in Ghana, how a collaboration between government agencies and a local ag tech firm growing the local private sector delivered critical information to farmers, shifting their farming practices and increasing productivity. This is about government decision making. It's also about the information that can be offered to farmers. Investing in data and improving the capacity and the tools and methodologies are critical, but they're not enough on their own to enable countries to harness the full benefits of digital transformation. And that is why it's the responsibility of governments not just to provide the infrastructure and make the investments, but to support good data governance, what enables public, private, and civil society stakeholders to collaborate, to build the trust that we heard is so important, to harness new technologies, and to confidently share and use data for impact and for the equitable development that we all want to see. So this is about establishing the trustworthy principles, the processes, the institutions that can be the basis for collaboration across groups, across sectors, and engage all stakeholders. Without this foundation of trust, I think we all now know very well data will not be used to its full potential. Donors will be unwilling to fund data systems, the public will be fearful, the public support for digitalization will suffer, and of course the risk of data misuse with all of its attendant harms increases considerably. Such principles and trustworthy foundations are especially important, of course, for the most marginalized, like smallholder farmers, for whom digital tools can offer huge opportunities, but also come with risks, or at least poorly distributed benefits. So I think we're seeing now a growing awareness on the international stage of the importance of data, of the significance of data for all of the things on which the international community is most exercised, that the importance of data for good decision making, the importance of data for rapid response when climate shocks hit or conflict, and of course the importance of data for attracting private sector investment and for overcoming the gap that we see all too often between the reality and the perception of the investment opportunities that are absolutely at the heart of driving so much of the progress that we want. So I think we're particularly excited at the Global Partnership that we're starting to see real global action on these fronts. And in particular, that the UN in September at the SDG Summit launched 12 high-impact initiatives to accelerate progress on the SDGs, of which one was called The Power of Data, and really focused on galvanizing the political commitments, strengthening the national and global enabling environments for strong and effective data systems to support progress across all of the Sustainable Development Goals, including, of course, critical goals on food and nutrition. The High Impact Initiative brings together a group of 15 countries across Africa, Asia, Latin America, and Europe, countries that are at the forefront of national and also global action on data, that are leaders in this space, pioneering new investments, new forms of governance, and benefiting from the digital transformations and the investments in AI that will come with that. The Power of Data initiative will bring together not only governments, but also technology companies, civil society, donors, and others, building on driving coherence across the many existing initiatives, and altogether strengthening the use of data to drive progress on the SDGs. these national partnerships are all about driving investment in data systems and bringing all of the stakeholders together to govern and use data for the benefit of society as a whole. The CFS policy recommendation, voluntary policy recommendations, of course, are an important touchstone for these partnerships in the food security and nutrition sector, and intersecting, as we've heard already today, with data systems in those sectors and across governments as a whole. I think it's been a real pleasure to be here today, to be in a room of people who believe in the power of data to effect change, and very much looking forward to the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire, very much for your presentation and sharing with us your thoughts. You presented some, I would call like scary statistics in terms of the countries who did not have an agricultural census. For instance, over the last 10 years, I think 92 countries, 20 years, 52 countries, and there are 10 countries who have no agricultural census at all in terms of records. So this is very telling in terms of in relation to take an informed decision if we don't have census and we don't have data. Importance of strengthening data governance, I think we all agree on that. Strengthening institutional capacities, again, I think this was also highlighted by other presenters before. And also the other figure related to the investment and the work that you have done, in the sense that investing $1 in data system gives $32 back in returns in terms of economic benefits and better life. I think this is also an important figure to retain. And lastly, highlighting the importance of bringing all stakeholders together under one initiative, so everybody works together to the same objective. I think this is very important, and how the power of data and to bring people together. So with this, we come to conclusion to our presentations. So thank you again. I think for that, we still have about 10 minutes or so for questions. So we have also online question, and I already saw that there are some questions. I'll try to address those. In the meantime, please, if anybody would like to ask a question from here, then I would ask that please, if you could present yourself, the country, and then ask your question. So I'll start from the room here. We have someone, a colleague asking for the floor, and then we go to the online questions. So please go ahead.
Thank you. Warwick Ragg, National Farmers Federation Australia, PSM. Question to Claire and to David. Data is critically important for everyone. How do we ensure that everyone co-invests fairly in the acquisition and utilisation of data so it doesn't become just a burden, an extra reporting burden for the farm sector? Thank you.
Thank you. That's an interesting question. Anyone willing to take, then before we go to the online? I think Claire, maybe you please go ahead, Claire. And then,
thank you. I can't promise. I have a sense that if there was an easy answer to that question, we wouldn't need to ask it. But I think, I mean, for us, I think one of the critical things is to think about data as an investment rather than a cost. And I think that's really the heart of starting to develop the processes that can answer that question. I think for a very long time, those of us who've been interested in data have presented it as a sort of cost on the balance sheet, as a sort of regrettable but necessary input into the achievement of other objectives. But I think increasingly, and I think, you know, the sort of explosion of interest in digital transformation and the realization that AI, which runs on data, which requires data to be able to operate, is going to be at the heart of most of the new economic opportunities which the world will see over the next few decades, has really changed the argument on data from being simply a kind of cost that can, a sort of cost to monitoring other investments, to an investment in its own right. So I think for me, you know, it's that shift in the way that we think about data, which then opens the door to be able to have those conversations about data as an investment, and as you put it, a co-investment fairly. And I think that is at the heart of it. I think the second, I think that debate is already happening. I think the second part of that, which perhaps we haven't yet really worked out, is if we see data as an asset to be invested in, how should we think about the ownership and the control of that asset? And I think that is something that, you know, we still don't have, lots of people have lots of different answers to that question, depending on where you sit. And I think we probably won't have one single answer to that question. You know, in any other asset, be that land, be that any other kind of technology, there are multiple different systems for governance, for ownership, and so on. But I think part of the challenge with being able to invest effectively in data is that our understanding of the sort of property right, property, intellectual property, whatever you want to call it, use rights over data is not yet very well established nor shared. And I think that is a challenge, and that's why I think we need to think about both the practical aspects of those investments, the capacities, the investment in the wires and the infrastructure that allows data to flow, has to go together with thinking about the governance regimes, with the way in which we manage data and so on, if we're going to get the full benefits of both, because those are the twin challenges that we need to overcome to reach that point where we do have these effective flows of investment, co-investment, and so on.
Thank you, Claire, for that. Now I will go to the chat, and we have a question directed to Mr. Jae-hoon Sang from the Republic of Korea, and I'll read it from the screen. It is an interesting concept, the smart farming. The question is how the Republic of Korea brings the information and includes local farmers to transition to smart farming. Most farmers, especially in Bali, Indonesia, that's the reference from the person who asked the question, are old. It begs the question on how such concept can be done to old farmers who may not have experience in using new technology and innovation. So, Mr. Sang, if I may direct the question to you, please, if you could address that. Is Mr. Sang still with us? Then I'll move to another question. In the meantime, if we connect with Mr. Sang, and then he would like to address that question, is another question relating to integration of high technology into agriculture. Is that it might lead to changing how local farmers see agriculture. Traditionally, farmers fully rely on nature for gaining crop yields or gold yields, and therefore there is a good symbiosis between farmers and nature. Now, the technology comes in. Would it make farmers see their fields as a mere productive inputs? How can we introduce good technology without compromising local culture, which often supports sustainability? So the question relates how technology actually cannot compromise the traditional farming system that there are in many countries, but it can support and lead to positive outcomes in that regard. So anyone would like to answer that question from your country experiences, or? Yes, Dr. Wahida, please.
Yeah, I think the answer is compared. Where is the small farmers living in? You know, whether it's coming from developed country like Australia, which is the system is self-reporting, or in our country like Indonesia and other developing country, which is the most important thing is, I think, to what we call as develop a digital literacy. Meaning, before we introduce any kind of digital farming or smart farming, it is important to increase the literacy at the farmers level, just to make sure whatever they have at the moment, what they ever experienced, because at the moment, it's very hard for them to depend on local wisdom, local knowledge. It's no longer there. The climate change changes everything. There is tools to help them, but it is important to scaling up their digital literacy and the task for the government to provide the infrastructure, the internet connection. It's a new movement, and it is important as well by having this, the time to bring the young millennials, the millennials to come and work in agriculture sector. I guess digital agriculture could be a tools to really, addressing the aging farmers' issues. That's coming from myself.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions from the floor? We only have 3 minutes, so I don't see.
May I request the floor?
Yeah, sorry for missing you. Please, of course, please go ahead.
Okay, good morning, everyone. I'm Mazni from Malaysia. So I have a question. Some countries face chronic lack investment in data collection and statistical system. Sometimes the funding from donors often complicates things further. In your opinion, how could we find a balance for more win-win situation for both donors and also recipient countries? That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Any taker? Yes, Claire, again, thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm very glad to be asked that question. I think, there are countries for whom the reality is that donor support, of course, will be critical in strengthening data systems, in providing the capacity development and the infrastructure that is needed. And donors already provide huge support to data systems. I think there are 2 key ways in which donor support can be improved. Leaving aside the need that perhaps we need more support for investments in data, given the critical importance of data now for economic growth strategies, as well as for the good operation of government decision-making. I think there is a case that while donors are investing so much in digital technologies, in digitization, that some of that should be devoted also to strengthening systems. But I think there are 2 ways in which, even leaving aside the need for more investments in data could be made much more effective. And both of those are to do with improved coordination. Donors already spend a huge amount of money on data collection through their own monitoring and evaluation systems. This is absolutely necessary, of course, for accountability to taxpayers in those countries and so on. But very often that data collection is not geared towards also supporting and strengthening data systems in the countries where money is spent. So I think there are many ways in which current donor spending on data through monitoring and evaluation could be made much more supportive of national systems and leave behind a legacy of strengthened systems, as well as providing the information that donors quite rightly need. And then the second thing, of course, is something which you hear about in every sector, which is about the necessity of improved coordination between donors. So there are many sectors, for example, health, where there's been huge investment in data, and we're seeing the benefits in the form of vastly improved health data worldwide. But there are also many orphan sectors where data has not been such a subject of investment, and correspondingly those are sectors where we see worse data globally and nationally. And of course, for many of these things, data is a global public good as well as a public good in the countries. We all rely, for example, on effective climate monitoring worldwide, because what one country's climate policy affects us all through the impact on global climate change. So the data is really a global public good, and I think we need to see more coordination by donors of their investments so that we can make sure that we're creating the public record that we need globally to be able to address the challenges that we face as well as nationally. So my argument to donors would be twofold. First of all, there should be more investment in data to be able to reap the rewards of the new technologies that we see. And secondly, that money which is currently being spent could be spent more effectively to strengthen national systems.
Thank you, Claire, for that. We have a very rich discussion. I will not even venture to try to summarize what we have, but I know the time, we are already a couple of minutes, but please, what I want to do, I hope you remain with us, just to use about 3 minutes and to give each of the panelists about 30 seconds. So please, 20 to 30 seconds, and we go in the same order for any 1 or 2 key messages that you would like to leave with the audience. So really highlighting in very short time, 1 or key message that you want the audience to walk out with from this side event. So I go the same order with Mexico. So Mr. Tenorio Sandoval, if I see that you are still with us, please, 1 or 2 messages that you would like to keep with the audience very, very briefly. Thank you. We don't hear you. I think you are muted.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for the invitation. Thank you very much for everyone. On behalf of Gustavo Tenorio, I want to give you my email, roque.nochebuena@ciap.gov.mx. If you have any question about data collection in Mexico, please feel free to write to us. I am sure that we can give you all the answers that you need. And I also want to express our concerns about the interest about data collection, but thinking about the food security and the good and healthy consumption of food all around the world, we also want to point out that consumption messages are really important. In Mexico, we have big problems with consumptions of junk food. So we think that that is really important to give attention to messages that are sending to population to get a better food consumption, talking about agriculture and livestock products. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. So we'll go, please try to be very brief, Dr. Wahida. So 1 or 2 messages, please, in a few seconds.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Boubacar. I think today we just really show the important and the concrete example how Indonesia used the data-driven policy. But we're not gonna stop here. So there is 5 key enablers that may sum up this discussion that really support what we call as data quality with comprehensive methodology and maximize. What is the 4th enablers? The first one is, build people capacity. There is a need to revise the regulation that support the idea to really strengthen the quality of the data, and also just like you mentioned about the accuracy, between accuracy and then with the policy, maybe we can minimize the complexity, strengthen the infrastructure, catalyze funding, because this is need a huge investment. And the last one, partnership and collaboration. That's coming from me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think this is actually summarizes the whole side event. Thank you. We go to the 3rd intervention from Mr. Ji-hoon Sang from the Republic of Korea. I don't know if he's connected with us or not. I don't see him on my screen. So okay.
If I may, I think I'm the alternative permanent representative in Korea.
Sure.
I think Mr. Sang is out. Yeah, so I want to answer the question about how to apply the digital technology to the old people, I want to ask us this kind of questions. As Mr. Song told us that in Korea we have serious aging problem in rural areas, so we have same problem. So we have various education programs for the old people to get used to the new technology about the data uses. And then we have various education program accordingly to the level. And we also have special agencies of the consultation and education and help the older people to get used to the technology, data technology. Yes, that is my answer. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you for standing for the Republic of Korea and providing those insights. I'll go try to move quickly. Please also try to be very brief. I'm just concerned about the time because people have some other session to attend. So please, very brief. I go to Mr. Yassin from Turkey. Please, the one or two key messages in very few seconds that you would would like to leave with the audience.
Sure, very few seconds. So I wanted to touch upon the importance of sharing of data. I think this policy making is going to be better if the all participants are willing to share their data, because we have seen many problems gathering from the field and sharing between government agencies. So this is the important part, and I think information wants to be free. So I think it should be handled with that understanding. And thank you very much for listening.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. I go now to the next, Dave from Australia. So please, your thoughts. What do you want to leave with us? Thank you, Dave. Over
Very
to you.
brief, very brief. We need to do better at giving incentives for people to adopt agricultural technology and also share data. So demonstrate the value, demonstrate the benefit, and think about the trusted partners that can actually help incentivize people to share data. Make sure the user is in the discussion from the very first time so that the solution is actually for the problem that they are encountering and they need. And finally, the marriage of production with sustainability outcomes, the use of data and digital to drive the co-benefits. Thank you.
Dave, thank you very much. I think the point on incentives is well taken, and we fully agree we have to incentivize, especially farmers, to take part of this. So the issue of incentive is key in this effort. Again, last but not least, Claire, please, in a very few seconds, so we can also...
Absolutely, thank you so much. No, I very strongly agree with the remarks of all the other panelists. I think there is a data dividend there for the taking if we get the investment right, and if we get the governance systems right, that can help to build up the capacity, strengthen the infrastructure, build the trust. What we have to gain from this is a revolution in government decision-making, is the digital transformations that can underpin progress across services, and the economic opportunities that will come with the development of new technologies and can be spread widely across society. I think this is a hugely exciting and important agenda, and really welcome the chance to discuss it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Claire. I think there's nothing better than ending on a positive message that we appreciate. With that, we conclude our event. Please, a second applause to our panelists for being with us today. Thank you very much again for all the participants, and wishing you a great day, a great evening, and good night wherever you are. Thank you very much.